So, welcome to the show. I've got to get something better than that. That's too. Welcome to the show. Like, not at all organic.
Well, it's a like we're yeah, it's a process. You're gonna
Working on it. Get there eventually. I mean, at least the audio has gotten a little better on these. The video still kind of looks like I'm shooting it from a closet, filming with a jellyfish, but we'll get there.
Right. Yeah, I sat here for like a good 15 minutes before I was like, no, the lighting's wrong. Oh, the lighting's off. Just like I'm trying to figure out the perfect position.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, the lighting. I mean, it's like a J.J. Abrams lens flare. Like, if you hit this in the wrong way, all of a sudden it throws everything off. Anyway, hi, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How you doing?
Not bad. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking a Japanese whiskey. I feel like I'm Bill Murray in Lost in Translation, but
Nice.
it's a Japanese whiskey. It's called Suntory, and it's pretty good.
I'll have to give it a shot. I've never had Japanese whiskey.
It's pretty good. A little bit peaty, little smoky flavor going on there, but if that's what you're into, it's really good stuff.
Nice. All right, so we've got some ground with you that we can go to. We've got poetry, we've got music. I mean, we've got all over the map here. So I'm gonna start with poetry.
Okay, cool.
How long have you? When did you write your first poem?
Gosh, I could honestly probably say I started writing poetry around 7 or 8.
Oh wow!
Good,
sure. Well, yeah. I mean,
but I feel like it was like a class project or whatever, and
right.
But always was reading as a child, and I just think poetry just drew me in, just words and the way that they could link together, and sentence structure, and just all of that, and it really encapsulated me. Just really drew me in.
Nice. Who are you? Like, what's your go-to poet now?
Now, okay, I know I'm going to get some shit for this, but
no judgment here.
I know. Well, because everybody looks at him as a misogynist, and he absolutely was. But I do love Bukowski. I just love me some Bukowski. I can't help it.
I mean, art's taken as art. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't throw a stone in here and not hit a book that would have somebody that turned out to be a douche. Like,
right.
Just that's why I don't want to know. I don't want to know about, like, if I dig in art, I don't want to know about the person that made it. I don't want to know about their life. I don't want to know, I don't want to know their thoughts. Just give me the art. I'll consume the art.
Right. Yeah, I completely understand. Like, J.D. Salinger is another one where it's like, the more you know, the less you want to know. Because you're like, oh, I love this, but
I don't want to know how the sausage is made. Just, give me the end product. I'm good.
Right.
All right. So sorry. Yeah. Bukowski. Yeah. Okay. That's, I get that. No, I mean, from a content structure, the feels, I get that.
Yeah. It was just like anytime his work in particular, like whether it's a novel or a poem by him, it was just raw and just so unfiltered. And I don't know a lot of poets that were like that. I mean, there's plenty, but it just resonated with me.
Yeah. So. I mean, I'm a Kerouac guy, so yeah, I live in the same neighborhood as you do because there's certainly
a little post beat, and I do love Ginsberg, so
yeah, you definitely know the neighborhood then.
Yes, I do. I'm very well versed.
All right, so was that an influence on your work? or yeah.
To a certain degree, I'm definitely more free verse lyrical than, narrative or anything like that. So yeah, I definitely don't look to find a rhyme or not just
Right.
a trochaic foot or anything like that. I'm not that specified in it.
Right. All right. So it's more of a structure thing as far as tone, or I mean, do you go for that visceral?
Yeah, I try to go visceral and just a lot of simile, a lot of metaphor,
Right.
and it's not hard to read in between the lines of what I'm writing, but sometimes it can be, I suppose, but for the most part, it's pretty straightforward in your face. This is what
Right.
I'm talking about. So
I gotcha. What does that do for you? Like, what itch does that scratch?
I've always tried to be a person that wore their heart on their sleeve kind of thing. And sometimes I'm not the best about it. So I found solace in writing it down. If like I'm having that day, whatever kind of day, it could be a good day, bad day, indifferent kind of day. But if I write it down, then I felt like I put that emotion out into the world, even if I didn't tell anybody about it. So
I gotcha.
yeah, it just felt like comforting to actually have somebody hear it, even if it was just pen and paper.
Now, do you show your work as soon as it, like when it's done, or do you have some you keep that these are just for me, just because I needed to get that emotion out, or is it both?
It's both. It's for sure both. I'm not a great person with showing my work. Like there's handfuls of people I show to, and usually other artists or loved ones. But and then some I just keep close to the vest. Like that one was just for me. Nobody needs to know how I felt in that exact moment.
Sure.
But then I reflect back on it. I'll go look back on it and I'll be like, oh, that was actually pretty good. Like,
Well, I mean, yeah, it's almost like having journals with, I mean, with my stuff, I do that where, I'll have a short story and I'll think, what the hell what was the matter that thing happened. And then there's others where it's like, wow, that, structure wise, it needs work and it's not exactly the most original thought, but that piece there is pretty cool. Like I'd like to take that and put it over here and build the thing.
right. Yeah. No, I mean, I used to journal all the time. I've gotten bad about it. I'm trying to be better about it this year. But yeah, like I'll just prepping for this, I kind of went back through old journal entries and I was like, oh, that's actually not bad. Let me write that down, like maybe that could be something, maybe that one line or whatever,
Exactly.
So
it just wasn't fully grown, fully baked at the time.
No,
Now you
incubation period.
exactly.
Yeah.
So then, okay, so explain I know you're into audio as far as music, and why don't you explain? I know the answer, but I'm not wording it well. So where does your expertise lie with music and sound?
So previous to the whole pandemic, I was doing live sound audio engineering. So basically that's just setting up for and tearing down of live concerts. But the cool thing with that is there are artistic expressions that come out of that. Basically it's like, especially if you're doing front of house engineer work, which is what the audience hears,
Right.
it is taking what the artist on stage is doing and trying to reflect it back to the crowd. And sometimes artists just want you to play how it sounded on a record, or but yeah, a record.
Sure.
But other times you could have fun with it. I mean, personally, for me, when I've done front of house engineer work, some of the best artists or whatever, the most fun music to mix is like something like reggae or psychedelic music, because it's supposed to go there. It's supposed to, have an element of fun. So you take something like a reverb and put it on a snare and just let it like have a huge echo on it.
Right.
Or take a psychedelic singer and have the vocals just swirl around the room. And, so that's, yeah.
That's awesome. So how did this 6-year-old poet end up there? Like, what's the journey that got somebody that, dug words, digs words, digs structure, digs, the emotions. How did that translate to sound?
By happenstance, to be quite forthcoming. It was really, I remember I was working at a bank, which is, what a grind, but was working at a bank. And one day I just got a targeted email of audio engineering school, probably just from music I listened to or whatever. And it was in Arizona, and it was called the Conservancy of Recording Arts and Sciences. And I was like, well, you know what? I just can't keep, going through the daily grind. I want to experience something different. And so just ended up saying, threw caution to the wind and signed up for this school, took out a student loan, which is much better than other student loans, but whatever. Won't get into that.
Right. But, different conversation.
Different conversation. Political conversation. But ended up going through that program and interning at this company in Southern California. And 1 year later, after interning there, well, I guess the internship was only for so long. But anyways, yeah. Then ended up being out on the road for 10 years.
Wow.
At the ripe age of 22. So.
Jeez. What's one of the, I mean, I'm not, I'm not asking you to name drop. I guess I am kind of asking you to name drop. What was the most fun show you've done? Like who would it have been for? Because I know you've done some names that the audience will recognize, but
right,
without name dropping that much, like what was your most fun one to mix?
I'm going to give a 2-part answer to this. Okay. So best tour I've ever been on, bar none, is a band called The Shins.
Okay.
And that was the first tour that I ever worked on. And I toured with them a couple times, but just between band, crew, the venues that we went through, the city, like it was just a different world to me.
Nice.
All of a sudden, I just got thrown into this thing, and I thought, oh, I've made a mistake somewhere, like at the beginning, because I was like, I don't know anything. And then, but everybody was just so welcoming, and it was wonderful. And then the best one-off gig or whatever, like the best show I ever got to see was in, unfortunately, Las Vegas, or fortunately, depending on your feelings on Las Vegas. But it was at this Uber millionaire's 70th birthday party, and he had John Fogerty play.
Wow.
Robin Williams perform.
Oh, damn.
And then in the main ballroom, he had Sir Paul McCartney play.
Good Lord.
I know.
Wow. Should have went to school to mix sound. Oh man, yeah, that's a tough one to top. Okay, so back to okay. So where were you with? So you worked at a bank. What were you? I mean, where were you? Was poetry still in your life at that point?
Oh yeah, it's always been a constant. Like
Okay.
there might have been, you know, like a year where I wouldn't write as much, but it's always been a constant in my life, or just like writing in general. Like definitely writing like short stories and stuff. But at a certain point, I flipped on trying to like I did attempt writing a novel once. I don't know if I could ever attempt it again. Probably can. I
Sure.
probably short stories, and then I just always liked the music and poetry, and it just kind of made sense always. And then with like doing the touring audio thing for so long, all those experiences ended up making my writing somehow better,
Oh, I'm sure.
you know.
I
So
mean, if for no other reason, the amount of creativity, like compared to a bank that you were
right,
around, like, yeah, I mean, as someone that's already dealing in that mind space to be around others in that mind space, yeah, I mean, it had to have affected what you were putting out.
right, exactly.
So what are you, I mean, you've never been published, you've never self-published or anything, but
No,
you,
not. Oh, go ahead.
no, but you've interests in that direction.
Right. Yeah. No, I do want to publish or self-publish at some point.
Yeah.
I have an idea of what I want to do with my poems. Like, I definitely have enough poems to like put together a book of poems, but
Okay.
I kind of want to do something with like an artist where they kind of read through and then they just draw something around the poems that kind of, you know, give the feeling of that poem, to just have both not only the words but that visual aspect to it.
Right. That's a cool marriage. I mean, yeah, I've certainly seen where, you know, you'll have two or three poems sometimes and then there'll be art, or I've even seen it, yeah, where you've got the one poem and there's a piece that goes with that poem and throughout
Right.
the whole series, the whole book.
Right.
That's very cool. What about, so with the music angle, have you ever dabbled songwriting, or is it don't
Um,
mix the chocolate and the peanut butter?
I've I've definitely given it a lot of thought. Like I've definitely been like, okay, I think I could probably do it, but I every time I try to write a song, it just ends up feeling so, I don't know. It just doesn't tie together the same.
I
So,
gotcha.
and I feel like I would need a melody behind it, and I'm not a good enough musician. What
Well,
I do
that, yeah, that was going to be my next. Yeah, I guess sounds like. Are you musically inclined outside of the sound? Like, what, you play instruments?
I mean, I tickle on the
Piano. Yeah.
every now and then, but am I good at it? No. I mean, I have. I would say I'm better at like drumming than anything, but anything percussive I could get around on and fake
Right.
like I know what I'm doing, but I'm not.
That's still. I mean, that's from what I understand. Drum is not an easy gig necessarily.
Mm. No, I could keep time. That's about it. I could keep time, maybe throw a little fill, little crashes here and there or whatever. But other than that, if you ask me to do anything too technical, I'll be like, no.
No. Nice. Forgot where I was going with that. Actually, I had a follow up. Damn it, Whiskey Aaron.
I don't think you're quite there yet. You're still
No,
putting this in enough.
there's too many directions I wanted to go. So, what was your like? Do you have a favorite poem of yours?
I think I said, ooh, damn it. Now you've made me second guess it, but I'm gonna go with Howl by Allen Ginsberg. That
Oh.
able to write,
Sure.
I'm able to recite that in my head. Now it's been several years or whatever, but
Right. But of one of yours, like your own,
one
do
of
you
my,
have a favorite? Yeah.
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
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 You can pick your favorite baby, huh? I can't do that. Like there of the stuff I've put out, there are elements of everything that like they're children. I can't pick a favorite necessarily. Well, that's not true. I guess I could pick a favorite, but it would change daily, like depending on my mood.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to steal your answer on that. Yeah. No, actually, I kind of agree with you on that. Like, depending on the day, there are certain ones that just resonate with me more.
Right. Oh, okay. Here's a more fair ask of that question. Do you have a favorite period where you think your poetry is the strongest, like of your life? A favorite, like if you were, Van Gogh and had a blue period, like do you have a favorite, like a period that put out your best work so far?
I do actually. It is like I would have to say it's 2019, which is interesting that it's so specific. But 2019, my work, that all the poems that I wrote that year, just seemed to elevate somehow. Like I really took it serious that year for whatever reason. I think it was just all the experiences I had that year. I mean, and I just was dedicated to it. And I think that is something that, as an artist, all of us are kind of like looking at, okay, do we need like, I'm trying to think of the way, a good way of putting it, but like, is inspiration divine, or is it just like, or is it consistency? And I've always been a big advocate of consistency creates inspiration. You know what I mean?
I get that, and I'm close to that. Consistency is definitely key for me. I think it's because if you are consistent, you're open to not miss the moments of inspiration. Like, so it seems less mystical because like it's always around, but you're not always thinking about your art, and so you're thinking I want a sandwich, and like you could have had this cool idea, but I'm with you on the being consistent in sitting down and doing whatever your art is makes for those opportunities to appear more often, I think.
Right. Like, because I'll look at a writer's, like, what their daily life is like. And as we were talking about, you sometimes don't want to know what their daily life was about. But even, like, say somebody like Hunter S. Thompson, right? Mm-hmm. The Rolling Stones did an article on him of what a day in the life of Hunter was.
Right.
And it was wild and extreme, but it would be like, wake up 2:55 p.m., 2:58 p.m., snort a line of cocaine or whatever Hunter was doing that day.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like right around 11 to midnight, he would start writing, and he would write all night long. And I just think that, consistency begets innovation.
Even particularly in the face of all that, like the like you've just spent your day being whatever he did. Yeah, like you said, whatever he did, shooting a cannon or going down to the bar and like, yeah. I mean, to have that chaos and yet still have the dedication to sit down at like this point, yeah,
and just put words down on the page. I don't know how he did it. Believe me, I used to idolize him to a certain effect, and then I was like, actually, no.
Yeah.
Not the person you want to be.
Right. I had the same phase with Kerouac where, I mean, I lived on the road for a year, no pun intended. out of my car, like just living around the country, taking odd jobs. Back when that was not, I could, as a 19-year-old kid, just show up in the neighbor, in a small town and be like, "Do you have any work, any odd jobs? Just enough to give me some gas money and some food."
Right.
And yeah, there came a point where Kerouac was not as sexy. like, I mean, catalog of work, sure, yeah, I'm still a big fan, but
Right.
as far as someone to emulate, no, that's a bad idea.
Right. No, it's funny looking back at certain like novels that I read, and I just like idolize it. Like just like Bukowski or Kerouac or Hunter or just all these people that just tried to, especially the beat writers in particular.
Right.
You're like, oh yeah, Burroughs, I want to live like him, but then
No, I don't.
no, I don't. I don't.
Right. Yeah, no.
Nope.
I don't know. What is it about being attracted to damaged authors or, artists that, because we both emulated, or at the very idea, emulated a mindset of that creativity of such damaged people.
Right. Well, and this is going to sound whatever, cliche or whatever, but passion in Latin breaks down to suffer, right? So a lot of artists feel like they have to suffer for their art to be good. And I'm not going to lie, sometimes that suffering has made my art good, but it's also taken me physically down to a bad place.
Yeah.
So I think there could be a healthy balance between that. You could go down that rabbit hole of seeing how far it takes you, going down into the abyss or whatever, and then coming back from it and creating something out of it.
That's true. And I think maybe pain and suffering is more, it's so relatable, so it's easily translatable to where
Right.
it's I've read this or I've seen this and I get that. I know what that feels like. Where other emotions that are happier, not so much. Like when I feel joy, it doesn't feel that way. It feels different, or
Right. And plus, if people are like reading something or a poem or whatever, if it's like happy and they're just like trying to sit there and be miserable, they're
right.
They don't want to stay in that
Yeah,
place.
this sucks. I don't want that. Yeah.
Get out of here with your positivity. And I want a pessimist around.
That's right. Well, and I don't know. For me, certainly it came with the territory of being a young, late teens, early 20s. Like there's something cooler about damaged that when you get a little older is not cool anymore.
Right. I couldn't agree more on that.
So we went off a little tangent there. We got a little deep.
Yeah.
But it fit the theme, because if of all writing, I would argue that poetry is the most, at its essence, is that emotion. Like you're not really playing with a lot of other. You can play with the construction, and you can play with word choice and whatnot, but the emotion is, I would think, I'm not a poet, you're a poet, so is that the main tool in your box, is playing with the emotion of that piece?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it has to be fairly transparent. Like it doesn't need to be so on the surface, but that's how I write. Like I want people to be like, oh yeah, I've been there. I've done that. I've had that experience, or I'm feeling that right now. So
Right.
I just want it to be relatable and for it to feel, symbiotic between the reader and I.
I gotcha. So you do a little transparent, so you're not one of the poets that, writes a haiku that goes on and on about a rabbit and, a river, and it means that you love McDonald's.
Right. Yeah. I'm not doing 575 anyway. I'm not a haiku kind of guy.
Right.
Yeah, no, I sometimes it's just like very on the nose. Sometimes I'll get political with it, but most of it is just like personal experience. And I think to the core of it, it's just like the human element of it all, like just trying to relate with one another. So
I like that. That's cool. Well, I mean, I hope you do put something out. I would love to add it to my shelves back here.
I hope so as well. Probably soon enough. Like if I found somebody that could do some artwork that I really enjoyed, I think that would give me the push I need. You
Is
know?
that, I was gonna say, is that the stopping gap? Is that the thing that's keeping you, like, if that were to happen, you'd be set to go, or is it just one of a few things that, like, I mean, I'll do it eventually?
Yeah. You know what? It's probably just me getting my own head about it too a little bit, because you'll read somebody's work, or like I'll bring up Bukowski again, but he used to get paid to like read his poetry out loud, and I'm not an orator by any stretch of imagination. You know, like
Gotcha.
that just terrifies me to
Really? So you'd never do like a what do you call those?
like a spoken word or
Yeah, like where you go. Yeah, you just get up to the mic and do your thing.
I've done it once and it terrified me.
Really?
Yeah, I've done it once, and everybody that I invited to go to the thing said, "You did great, you were wonderful," but it was just, I like being behind the stage.
Right.
You know, I don't like being up front, and it's up to the reader to interpret. You know, like if that emotion evoked something different in you, I'm not the one to tell you that that's wrong or that that's what I wanted to come out of it. So
Really? I guess that's fair. I mean, I don't know if somebody, I've had people read my short stories and say, "Oh, this," and it's like, wow, no, I wasn't. That was nowhere near my head when I. But okay, I mean, I don't know. I guess, yeah. I mean, I guess it's not a. I wouldn't want to correct them necessarily. I didn't correct it. Like, it shows it was where it's happened. Interesting. I never thought of that happening with a poem.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it happens more often than not. Like they'll be like, I mean, per example, I'll read some of my poetry to like my family, and they'll be like, "I had no idea you were so sad," and I'll be like, "Actually, no, that was like one of my happy poems." Like, you know, like this is why, you know, like, which is fine, you know,
Yeah.
but they're allowed to interpret it in any way they wish. But
Sure. Well, man, this has been cool. I've double chatting with you.
yeah, this has been wonderful. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, well, thanks for having a drink with me.
Yeah, anytime.
I will catch you later.
All right.